Ooh, that's a good song. So for those of you who don't know, Kin Community is a MCN on YouTube. We focus on lifestyle content for women around the areas of food, DIY, and home. And we also are producing our own content. So in addition to being an MCN, we're also a content creator, and we push that content out through all the different platforms and channels. So I have been in lifestyle content for about 20 years or so, and during that time, you're really focused to think about the competition. So on the radar are just a smattering of companies. Really, the list is a lot longer, but that's what would fit on my slide. But I look at these companies all the time and see what they're doing. But the world, our view of that world is kind of changing a little bit, because when we think about competing as media companies, at the end of the day, who we're really competing against are the humans. We live in the age of the influencer, and it can be a really jarring juxtaposition when you think of yourself as a media company and, oh yes, Kin Community needs to stand for something, and then you see people really come out of nowhere and gain millions and millions of followers and views. An expression we like to have at Kin is sort of, the nobody who becomes somebody suddenly to everybody, and we see that happening a lot on YouTube. And it's a lot easier for the humans to be human because they are human, and that is their brand. And when we think about the things that they do well, they have a very easy time being silly. They share their milestones. They tell you everything you've ever wanted to know about them. And when you think you've known everything about them, they suddenly come out with a video, 5 more things you don't know about me. And that just shows sort of their commitment to their fan base. And they love this fan base back, and that's another thing that I think humans do really well. They show affection, and that can be really hard for a media brand, because it's like, how do we kind of do that? We're like this thing, and we're not people, we're sort of this thing. And they also have a really easy time being vulnerable. So if you can see in the left-hand corner, that's Gemma Stafford, who has a very big baking channel on YouTube. And there she is taking her beautiful still of her chocolate ganache cakes. But yet in the background, you see it's a messy kitchen. She's got things on the refrigerator. It's not very precious. Things are not like overly curated. She's just saying, this is who I am. And I think because of that, they build a great empathy with their audience, and that becomes a very sticky relationship because that audience looks at her and says, wow, yeah, you're like me, I have a messy kitchen too. And that goes a long way. And then the next little still that I like too is of Rosanna Pansino and iJustine, because humans collaborate so well. And I think you see human brands doing that so much better than big media brands. So here you have 2 big YouTube powerhouses. They come together, they create a video, not in the spirit of competition, but in the spirit of, I respect what you do, I love what you do, let's put something together because we know our fan bases will love that. And I think that that's definitely something as media brands we could do more of. And the other thing that I love that human brands do is they share their origin stories really freely. So the next picture you see Laura Vitale, who also has a very big food channel on YouTube, sharing a picture of her grandmother in Naples, Italy as a young girl, and then going back to see her grandmother years later. And the grandmother shows up in videos, and she does cooking demonstrations. And so suddenly somebody that's very important to Laura becomes very important to us too, because we have bought into this origin story, and we are now a part of it. And I love that. I think that's really powerful. And then lastly, human brands show gratitude. They do this really, really well. So this is a still taken from an Instagram feed of Byron Talbot, who has another really nice food channel on YouTube. He reached 1 million subscribers, and he took thumbnails of all of his recipes that he's done over the years and turned it into the 1M and posted that on Instagram. And of course, people really love that. And it shows that he knows that he didn't get there without their support. And I think that's really important. So why is it hard for us to be human? Is there anybody in the audience that's part of a content team producing content? Yeah, okay, so you probably know this very well. You get very mired into these details of brand voice and mission statement and style guides and what's our value prop and programming strategies. All the while, the human brands are not really going there. They're spending time with Facebook Live video, and they're asking their users, what do you want to know? They're doing polls on YouTube. They're just doing things spur of the moment because they're being their true, authentic self. And I think sometimes as brands, it's hard for us to be our true, authentic self because we've got a whole list of brand guidelines that we all have to adhere to. And I think that needs to be loosened up a little bit. And one of the exercises that I just went through recently is coming up with our brand video for the new fronts. So every year, there's a big sprint to the new fronts, and what are we going to show? What's the video content? And that always lands on me like, oh, okay, I got to edit something that's like really big and splashy and is going to be really great. And it's usually filled with a lot of our content. And it usually has to do with a lot about us and kind of how we see the world, because again, it's our event, it's all about us. But this year I said, you know what, let's not have it be about us. Let's have it be about them. Let's have it be about the user, because those are the people that we're really concerned with. Those are the people that are watching our content. What is their view of the world? So I'm going to show you a video. I'm going to give you a sneak peek. This is our video that we're actually going to be debuting at the New Friends, but it'll give you an idea of how we're thinking about this a little bit differently and becoming a little bit more human in the process.
Well, here you are, in your own place. Your place. Not your mom's. Not a page from a catalog you pinned. This is where you really start to live. Where all the yous that make up you live. The all-grown-up you. The kid in you. The on-a-whim traveler you. The hardworking, love to play, out on your own.
Hi, Mom.
Never forget where you came from you. And even the work in progress you. Your home is a reflection of who you are. Where you've been. And where you're going. Meeting new people. Making plans. Settling in. But never settling. You're on your way. Your place, your space, your home. Kin Community. Make your way home.
So that was just a little sneak peek, and that, oh, thank you. I'm glad. Did you like that? Glad you enjoyed it. It'll give you a little bit of an idea of sort of the types of programming that we're thinking about going into this next year and coming out of our New Friends, you know, a little bit less about us and a little bit more about them, and what do people really want to see, and how do we engage with them on a more human level. So I think 5 things that human brands do well, and this is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about, that, you know, if you are a content brand and you're a media brand, things you might think about integrating into your own content. I think human brands build empathy really well, and one of the ways that they build this empathy is really being vulnerable and lifting off that veil and making mistakes and kind of saying, this is who we are, love us or leave us. They collaborate freely, and I think this is like one of the really hard things for media brands to do. I think we get very protective and very proprietary over like, oh no, we can't collaborate with that person. But there are so many media brands now that there's so many people we can collaborate with that I think it gets really interesting, and you know, collaboration, as we've seen, especially on the digital platforms, can really move big numbers. You know, if you take what you do well and take what somebody else does well, and sometimes it's not competitive, and there's just an intersection, and what can we do even better together? I love that idea. Sharing origin stories. So even if you're a new brand or a brand that's been around for 20 or 30 years, people still want to know where you came from and where you're going, and kind of they want to have that sweat equity with you. And I think that that helps an audience stay with you and celebrate the milestones that you also want to celebrate. And embracing the imperfection. I mean, I think somebody said it here today. We don't really know, you know, what's going to work on Snapchat or what's going to work on Facebook Live, but we have to try things. I love Joy, who said, you know, I try to try 2 new things a day that might get me fired. And I think that these are the kinds of things that we have to do. We have to be willing to take risks, and that's not always going to be perfect. So it's not always going to be according to the style guide and, you know, everything that everybody expects it to be. But that's how you get big reward, is by taking big risks. And showing gratitude. I think, you know, big media brands don't usually show a lot of gratitude. They just kind of exist and feel that like that's going to get them through. But I think there's so many choices now that consumers have to consume content. There's just like a barrage of video everywhere. And I think people want to know that their view matters. And how can we, you know, let them know that their view does matter? And we show gratitude that way. So these are not easy things to get around when you're a media company. I know that we struggle with them daily, but it's a very fun and exciting time to kind of work through these things. And one of my favorite expressions is, if trailblazing was easy, the road would be paved. And it's not. It's hard. But these are the things that keep me engaged and very plugged in every day as I create content. Anyway, that's all I got. I was so afraid I was going to go over 10 minutes, so I kept it really short. But let me know if anybody has any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Yes, thank you.
Nice job, nice job. Do we have questions? Mr. Katz right up in front. Hold on one second. Comes the microphone.
Hi. So you guys are obviously focused on creators, which have done so well on YouTube. The new growth in video, Facebook, where talent and creators have not been the dominant form. Actually, you're competing with two gorgeous hands on Tasty as your primary competitor.
Yeah,
How
it's
does your
such a good
business
point.
migrate to Facebook?
Yeah, it's such a good point. I mean, and I think I love those videos too. They're great. They definitely serve a purpose. I think that it's about speaking to the platform. So the creator can still create. It can still be their unique recipe or their unique spin on something. It may not be about them talking, because I think people are watching this content in sound-off environments. They're at the doctor's office. They're in a meeting, wherever they are. So how can we create an expression of who Kin is, but in a format that's going to work well for Facebook? And I think also creators are a little weary about posting their content to Facebook because they don't have the protections of Content ID the way that YouTube does. And we have even seen, our content get ripped off from YouTube, posted to Facebook, get millions of views. We had this one video around April Fool's Day, got 70 million views on somebody else's Facebook page. We thought, oh, wait, that's an old video. We're going to do that. We're going to post it on April Fool's Day. And we got 25 million views, which was great, but there still is something under my skin that's like, oh, that other page, that took our page. So I think getting our creator base to understand that Facebook is important, they do need to be there, and figuring out what makes sense for them on that platform.
How quickly the bedroom and living room creators start to feel like Viacom or something now? They're worried about their content rights and their IP on digital platforms.
Yeah, well, I think for some of them, they've spent a lot of sweat equity getting those brands up there, and when they see that happen, it's like a kick in the stomach,
Next question. Oh, right up here in front. Hold on, we'll bring you a microphone. 1 second. Here it comes.
That was an excellent presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Super interesting. So how do you stay connected to your humans?
Oh, yeah. As a brand, or how do we do it personally?
Yeah, like what's the dialogue? What does that look like?
Well, one of the things that I personally do, two things. One is I personally monitor the comments on our YouTube channel and on our social. So we don't necessarily farm that out to a social media manager. We have that. But if I'm creating programming, I need to know what the heartbeat of that content is. And there's no better way to know that than actually monitoring the comments and seeing what people are saying. I also, in addition to my day job, I also have a YouTube channel called Entertaining with Beth for all your cooking and entertaining needs. And that really helps me stay connected to the audience, because I'm figuring it out from the creator side. So in addition to being a programmer, it keeps me being a very honest programmer, because that BS meter of like, oh, this is great, and no one's going to watch it is like, no one's going to watch it, here's why. So having both of that, being really plugged into it on all sides is great. Yeah, thanks.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Beth.
Well, thank you.
Lovely having you here. Okay, let's see.